Hello, COP 1000 students. This is Dennis. Today I'm going to discuss some issues with functions and introduce something called the switch. The switch is one of the decision-making tools. If you recall, the if statement is the primary decision-making tool, not in C, but in all programming languages. If you recall from our beginning terms, there are two decision-making tools in a programming language, not one. If is the primary, the secondary decision-making tool is called the switch statement. Sometimes people will call it the case statement or the switch case statement. Regardless of what you call it, it's a switch. Regardless of what you call it, it's the secondary decision-making tool. Here's an example of a switch. It starts with the keyword switch, and then there is a variable inside of the parens, kind of like a function. Switch, left paren, right paren, variable. Has to be a variable, cannot be a constant. The switch has a block, just like most functions will have a block, or statements like an if statement or a while loop will have a block. Inside of the switch, what is different is you have a series of cases. Case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. This could be case A, case B, case C, case D. Within each of these cases, you'll have code. So we'll come into the switch, and before we come to the switch, the value of the variable must be predetermined. So top down, we have a variable. If its value is 3, we go here, do this code. If its value is 2, we go here and do this code. Hopefully you ran this, you tested it, and after you ran it, you should have seen that, let's go back. I want you to type this in and run this code. So I want you to create a little quick test program, set a variable up here, equal to one of these values, and then run it, Sorry. Now, once you've ran the code, you should have seen that at any entry point, say you entered with a 2, well, 3 and 4 also happened. If you entered a 1, all 4 cases happened. If you entered a 4, only case 4 happened. What would have happened if you entered a 5, 6, or 7? And my answer would be nothing would happen. These would all be skipped, and I'd leave the switch. We can avoid all the cases being triggered by this new keyword called break. So by adding this new keyword called break, we'll skip the unwanted cases. What break does is it causes control to leave the current scope. So my current scope is from this mustache to this one. When I encounter a break, I'm down here at the next line of code. So if the variable is 1, I do that code, hit break, here I am. If it's 2, I skip over 1, do case 2, here I am. In essence, as you try this, you will realize a switch can be replaced by an if-else if statement, but sometimes a switch is just cleaner. It's in every programming language, and I highly recommend you use it and get used to it, because you're going to see it. Take your time, add the break, and try this. See you on the next slide. So as I said in the previous statement, what would happen if someone enters something other than 1, 2, or 3, or 4? If you try that, you'll see that everything is skipped. We'll go to the next line of code. That's not really acceptable. What we want to do is we want to provide the user of this code. We expect them to enter 1, 2, 3, or 4. If they enter 5, 6, 7, or 8, we're going to, or anything but 1, 2, and 3, and 4, we have this new part of the switch. Besides the cases and the break, we have something called default. So if the value of the variable is none of the possible cases, then the default will get triggered every time. Every time. Typically in the default is some message to the user and then a break. Try this. Okay, the switch is typically used when you're building a menu system. This would be an example of a program that displayed a menu. The menu would say I, D, C, and Q. Input a number, display the number entered, cube the number entered, or quit. And then in the bottom of the menu, it'll be a place for the user to enter either I, D, C, or Q, or something else. Top of the menu, we're going to display the menu as such. And And that's all I'll say about this slide. So we're going to design this program that does what you saw in that previous menu: the input, the display, the cube, and the quit. What you see here is what I'm going to call a structure chart. This is the fourth design tool. The other three were IPO, flowchart, and pseudocode. So a structure chart is pretty simple, kind of flowcharty, but everything is kind of in rectangles. Should represent maybe a structure chart or an organizational chart of a company. So my program always begins with main, it leaves main, comes down here, does whatever this says. Looks like this guy, GetUserChoice, is calling this guy display the menu. Somehow we come back down and we hit this little circle and we're either going here, 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 or here. These would represent case 1 or I, case D, or 2, case C, or 3, or case Q, or 4. This little symbol right here in this chart does represent something, and so does this. This would represent the do statement, or the do while statement, and this would represent the switch. Because the structure chart is broken down into major components, this is absolutely ideal if you were in a team environment. You could say teammate 1 does this, teammate 2 does this, teammate 3 does these two, and teammate 4 does these two, and somebody else does this. So it's perfectly set up for you to divide your code into more manageable parts. There's that display menu again, and notice in here I have this display message function. If you're in my on-site class, we're about to discuss it, but you should have this written, and you should have code that calls this and tests it. Now let's talk about a function called GetChoice. GetChoice is going to be a function that is used for, after that menu is displayed, to let the user make a selection. So when we see a function called GetChoice, we have to, or any function, we have to discuss what its purpose is, which is what I just did. And then you have to answer these questions. Will GetChoice be value returning? Does GetChoice have a data type? Is it a void function? Does it need any values from the scope of the caller? Do we have to pass it anything? And then finally, what does the body of this GetChoice look like? So again, if we're in my on-site class, we're talking about this right now. If you're in my online class, you should be thinking about this, and when you're all said and done, you should have came to these conclusions. This is a function that returns a value. And not only does it return a value, it returns a character. So if you go back and look at that menu, the menu is expecting the user to enter a single character. One of the first things that happens in display choice is for the user to select something, they have to see that menu. So there's a call to display menu. So you can picture the menus on the screen, and on the bottom it says enter your selection, and all GetChoice does is scan it in to result. Every value returning function, data type, the word result, return result. Notice I did a flush because I'm scanning into a character. The last thing I want this code to do is not only to return the result, but I want them to return the result as a capital letter. So in my on-site class, we will discuss, or we have discussed, this toUpper. This is a built-in function. It's in the C-type library. And what this guy does is take any variable here, whatever it is, and convert it to an uppercase letter. So if somebody typed in a little I, it returns a capital I. If they return typed a capital I, it still comes back as a capital I. Right. Next function would be display the number entered function. Display the number entered function. Same questions. Is this a value returning or void? Does this function call any other functions? Does this function need a value passed from the scope of the caller? And what does the body look like? So we're going to make the assumption that somebody's already entered a number, and now we need to display it. So again, if we're on site, we would be discussing this, and hopefully we would come to the conclusion that this is pretty simple. The body of this function contains just a print and a pause, and for display number to work, it's a void function because it's only displaying, and it needs a value passed from the scope of the caller, which would have been that number someone entered, and it echoes it back out to the screen. How about display the cube of a number? Display the cube of a number. What's that going to look like? Is it value returning? Is it void? Does it have a data type? Does it need anything from the caller? And what's the body look like? So think about a function called display the cube or cube a number. What's it going to look like? And it should look something like this. It should look something like this. It's definitely going to be just a void function because based on our definition, it's just displaying it. Maybe I could have put the word display cube number. But I definitely need a number passed down from the caller into this function. And this function really doesn't need this local variable, but that's okay because it seems to be easier to read. To cube a number, you take the number times itself 3 times, store it in some variable. Calling that same function again called display message, and that calls cube a number, or that we pass it the words cube a number. By the way, I needed to put a comma and a letter Y here because I have 2 arguments and I forgot the Y. And then I just display the output. Display the output. The cube of 5 is 125, for example. I'm going to use this marquee. I'm going to retrieve an integer. I'm going to multiply it by itself 3 times, display the result. End of statement. Hang on a minute. Let's think about something. Cubing is pretty simple. It's nothing but raising something to a power of 3. Raising something to a power of 3. Maybe we can make a new function called raise to a power, which is more generic, and we could take a number and raise it to the power of anything. So we're going to write or think about this function, raising to the power of anything. So we could say 2 raised to the power of 8, 2 raised to the power of 9, 5 squared, 5 cubed, and so on. Would this be a value or void function? In our case, we're going to probably call it void because we don't really need to return the result. But if we did, it would be a value returning. Does it need anything to function or to do its work? Hopefully you're going to say it does. And then what does the body look like? Once we write this, we're going to probably have to adjust the menu and add this to the menu and probably add it to the switch. So what does the body look like? And again, if we're in on-site class, we're going to have a discussion about this. Here's me going in and adjusting the menu. So all I did was add this case or this R. So after adjusting the menu, what does this raise to a power look like? We've talked about that, and this is what it looks like. Here is the code raise to a power. So raise to a power is void. It needs the number. It needs the number. Sorry for the delay there. So I need to pass the number in, and I'm going to have 2 local variables, actually 3 local variables. I really only need 2. I have a local variable where I'm going to say, what is the power you want me to raise this number to? This is going to be a loop control variable, and maybe I could have named this anything but result, but notice I'm going to use a variable result, not a value returning result, just a variable called result. And also, it's key to notice it's defaulted to 1. So here's that display message function again. I asked the user to raise the number to a power as a marquee. I call that getNumber function that we had before, the getNumber function. It gets the number and stores it in power. That would be ask the user for the power to raise the number 2, so maybe we want to square something. This equals 2. So here's a for loop, and I'm looping power times. So if I'm raising something to the power of 1, or the power of 2, or the power of 3, and so on. So notice the way to raise something to a power is take the previous result and multiply it by the number power times. This cannot be set to 0, or this isn't going to work, because 0 times anything will always remain 0. So notice the first time in, I say 1 times the number would be the number, because 1 times anything is anything. So you might have to think about this for a minute, and here's the output. 5 raised to the second power is 25, for example. So think about that. So here's the whole program, Notice a good program should have a header. Here is my preprocessor. Here are my preprocessor directives. Here are all of my function prototypes. So display the queue, display the message, display the menu, display the number, get the user choice, my flush, and raise to a power. This entire slide, this whole body, there's my entire main of the program. So I declare my variables. Looks like I only have 2. Here's my do-while loop. A menu is inside of a do-while loop. Why a do-while loop? Because I need to do this at least once. Here's where I call GetChoice, which displays the menu and gets the selection and brings it back into this variable user choice. User choice hopefully will equal a capital A, capital D, capital C, capital R, or capital Q. Depending on its value, one of these functions will fire. If the value is none of these choices, then display message down here and the default will fire. Hey there, you must make a choice from the menu. And when they select Q, we say thanks for using our program. Thanks for using our program. That's it. Sorry for going so long. Hope this helps. Have a good day.